afternoon everyone. So in the last class just we started the purification of organic compounds. Again how that part is completed. Anyhow, after purification of organic compounds, we know that organic compound mainly it contains carbon, hydrogen, some other elements. That detection, how to detect the organic compounds. Okay, here we will see detection means quantitative and qualitative analysis of organic compounds. Qualitative and quantitative analysis of organic compounds. So mainly here qualitative analysis means type of elements. We know that mainly organic compounds contains carbon, hydrogen, apart from these some extra atoms like nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur and halogens, mostly here chlorine, bromine, iodine. And these are the some elements may present apart from that carbon and hydrogen. So that detection, whether nitrogen is present or not and oxygen is there or not, phosphorus is there or not, how to identify, that comes under qualitative analysis. Then if these elements present, then how much amount they present, that comes under quantitative, quantity, how much quantity they have and what type of elements in a given organic compound. So that we will discuss now. First we will go with qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis. Here mainly detection of carbon and hydrogen. First we will go with and these two elements. Detection of carbon and hydrogen. How to detect in a given organic compound. So nothing here, just you take organic compound for the detection of carbon and hydrogen. You take one organic compound and this organic compound if you treat with cupric oxide, then it can give, and if you heat it, you take that cupric oxide and if you heat it, you will get the corresponding products. If this organic compound contains carbon, then it can produce carbon dioxide, and if the organic compound contains hydrogen, then it can form water. So when you treat the organic compound with this cupric oxide, it can give carbon dioxide and water. Means the carbon dioxide water can produce. Then how to identify whether the carbon dioxide is a gas and water vapors can be produced, and how can we say the liberated gas is a carbon dioxide and the liberated vapors are water vapors only. So for that, the further identification. So this reaction, complete reaction medium, just you pass through the this carbon dioxide can be identified by the lime water test. You pass these gases through the lime water, you can say lime water test. Then you can see the milky appearance of lime water. Already we have discussed this thing. So when you pass the carbon dioxide to the lime water, formation of calcium carbonate, this can give the milky appearance, and this milky appearance confirms that the passed gas is a carbon dioxide, hence the carbon dioxide is produced from the organic compound. So organic compound should contain the carbon. So like this we can confirm the organic compound whether it contains carbon or not. And the second one, a hydrogen detection. How do we detect? Anyhow, again you treat the organic compound with cupric oxide, it liberates some vapors, and these vapors again if you pass through the anhydrous copper sulfate, anhydrous copper sulfate. The role of anhydrous copper sulfate, it can absorb the moisture. So, water can get absorbed over the copper sulfate and it can form pentahydrates of copper sulfate 5H2. Then anhydrates, it is a colorless form. When water absorbs over the copper sulfate, the hydrated form will become it turns into the blue color. The appearance of blue color again indicates that, and this is the water, the copper sulfate absorbs the water. So, again like this we can confirm that the produced vapors are water. Water means mostly it should contains hydrogen. So, organic compound now contains hydrogen. So, like this we can detect both carbon and hydrogen. Okay, simply you take organic compound, heat with cupric oxide, then it liberates carbon dioxide and water if carbon and hydrogen present in that. That carbon dioxide can be further confirmed by the lime water test, and the water can be confirmed by the treating with anhydrous copper sulfate, and that can produce the blue color. So, here we can take the chemical reactions involved in this particular reaction. Let me take first organic compound. If it contains carbon, instead of organ, let me take organic compound containing carbon. That if we treat with cupric oxide, it can liberate carbon dioxide, and the liberated this carbon dioxide, if we pass to the calcium hydroxide, it will form calcium carbonate. This is with respect to the carbon detection. And here hydrogen detection, the chemical reactions. Again hydrogen, if you treat with cupric oxide, it can form copper and liberate this water vapors. Again this water vapors, just we are passing to the copper sulfate, we are getting this copper sulfate pentahydrate. So, these are the reactions involved. Now, detection of nitrogen, sulfur and the remaining. The second one, detection of nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus and halogens. These are the hetero elements which are present in hydrocarbon, that is the organic compounds. So, before you detect, first we have to do one reaction here, that is the preparation of sodium extract. Before the detection of this, to detect these elements, first we have to treat the organic compound with sodium fusion, or you treat with the fused sodium metal, then you can find out the formation of sodium extract. And this method generally we can call Lassine method. So, here detection of nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus and halogen can be identified by the technique Lassine method or Lassine technique. You should remember this, they will ask you Lassine test. How to detect nitrogen, sulfur means phosphorus, halogens. So, this is a sodium extract, first you will get it. What is the meaning of actual sodium extract here? Organic compound, for example, if it has a nitrogen or sulfur, phosphorus, halogen, they may form the corresponding ionic compounds. The sodium extract may be here the sodium cyanide or sodium sulfide or sodium phosphide or sodium halides, like this. We know that organic compounds generally covalent in nature. So, here organic compounds are covalent in nature. You don't have sodium phosphate and sodium phosphoric acid will be formed. You can remove this. Sodium halide, up to this you can take. If this organic compound, for example, it is presented with nitrogen. Apart from this nitrogen, it has a carbon also, carbon and nitrogen. And that compound, if we treat with sodium, it will form sodium cyanide, and this is called sodium extractor. Again, if the organic compound is a sulfur, Again, if you treat that the sodium metal, we will get sodium sulfide. If it is if organic compound has a halogens, again if you treat with the sodium metal, you will get sodium halides. In general, this is called either sodium cyanide, sodium sulfide, or sodium halide. That is called sodium extract. And this sodium extract, further we will do the analysis for the detection of nitrogen, sulfur, or phosphorus, or various halogens. Why we have to convert? Why, if you take the organic compound directly, you can do the chemical reactions as like carbon and hydrogen. But why to do with this sodium? Why we have to prepare the sodium extract first? That is the reason. Organic compound mostly they are the covalent in nature. Covalent compounds cannot give the ions individually. So for that purpose, first we have to convert the organic covalent compound into corresponding ionic compounds. Here you can see a nitrogen in form will present in the ionic form Cn minus, sulfide is ionic form, halogen in the ionic form. So we can convert that covalents into ionic manner. Then one by one, detection of nitrogen, sulfur, and halogen, phosphorus we can take after formation of the sodium extract. We will take up first here detection of nitrogen. So for this, first we will take that sodium extract NaCN, and to this sodium extract we will add some amount of ferrous sulfate and also sulfuric acid. So here we will take a pinch of sodium cyanide, to that if you add ferrous sulfate and this sulfuric acid, then first it will form hexacyanoferrate, sodium hexacyanoferrate, you can identify ferrocyanide also, this one, and this compound sodium hexacyanoferrite or iron compound, ferrate we can say, this is sodium hexacyanoferrate, and this complex further can be treated with iron 3 plus ions, Fe3 plus. This one, and if you treat this complex with the iron 3 plus ion, ferric ion, it can form one blue color complex. You can see the formation of one blue color complex. This is Fe4, the chemical formula is very important here. Blue color complex, this is called Prussian blue. The formation of this Prussian blue indicates the presence of nitrogen in the organic compound. This is ferroferricyanide. Formation of ferroferricyanide. So very important. So here first we are taking that sodium extract, to that if you add ferrous sulfate and sulfuric acid, first it will form one complex sodium hexacyanoferrate, and the sodium hexacyanoferrate further will react with the iron 3 plus, and that can form a blue color complex ferroferricyanide, and the formation of this blue color complex, Prussian blue, it is a blue color complex. The formation of this blue color complex confirms that nitrogen is present in the given organic compound. And you may have the doubt here, here we are taking ferrous sulfate, and how come this ferric came? So when you treat the ferrous sulfate with sulfuric acid, and this ferrous sulfate can be oxidized by the sulfuric acid, then it can produce this some of the ferric ions. All these reactions can take place within the test tube only. Actually this you can take like this. When you take a small test tube, and there you add a pinch of sodium extract here initially, and to this when you add ferrous sulfate and then sulfuric acid. So, whenever we add ferrous sulfate, first ferrous sulfate will react with the sodium cyanide that can form the complex, one reaction. Then H2SO4 and FeSO4, they will react each other and that can produce ferrous sulfates to the ferric sulfate. Now, that complex formed and the ferric ions formed can react each other. So, finally, it can give the Prussian blue color. Like this, the chemical reaction can take place. Next, detection of sulfur. So, here for the detection of sulfur, again we will take as usual the sodium extract. If organic compound contains sulfur, the sodium extract can be formed as a sodium sulfide, and this sodium sulfide first will acidified with acetic acid, and that we will treat further with lead acetate. Lead acetate. This is the acidified lead acetate in presence of acetic acid. First, you treat the sodium sulfide with acetic acid, acidified solution can be formed. To that, when you add this lead acetate, and lead exchanges the sulfur and it will form lead sulfide plus sodium acetate, you will get it. And this lead sulfide is a precipitate, it can form a black color precipitate. And the formation of this black color precipitate indicates that here we have the sulfur, and the sulfur anyhow it is coming from the organic compound. So, like this we can detect whether the sulfur is there or not. Formation of black precipitate. And we can do we can identify this for sulfur in another method also. There is a nitroprusside test. This is the first test. In the second test, a sodium nitroprusside test, and in this case sodium sulfide we will add to the sodium nitroprusside. This is a complex Na2Fe CN5N. This is called sodium nitroprusside. And this sodium nitroprusside, when treated with sodium sulfide, it will form one violet color complex, and the formation of that violet color complex indicates the presence of sulfur. So, it can form like this, and this is a violet color complex. Violet color complex. So, these are the two methods to detect the sulfur. One is the treating with lead acetate, and the second one sodium nitroprusside can give the violet color. So, like that we can identify nitrogen sulfur. And next, if nitrogen sulfur present together, then how to detect? So, for that we have nitrogen and sulfur together. If nitrogen sulfur present together, then the sodium extract can be formed. This sodium metal, if you treat with organic compound, for example, it has a sulfur and nitrogen, then it can form the sodium extract, sodium thiocyanate, this one, NaSCN. This is a sodium extract here. This sodium extract, further if you treat with ferric chloride solution, you take this sodium thiocyanate, you treat with ferric chloride solution, then it can form a blood red color. That formation of blood red color indicates the presence of both nitrogen and sulfur together. It can form this complex, the blood red color complex. Like this, the formation of this blood red color indicates that both nitrogen and sulfur present together. Now next we will see detection of halogens. Detection of halogens. Again, organic compound, when you treat with the sodium metal, fusion sodium, initially we will get the sodium extract. That is, the sodium extract here is sodium halide. It may be sodium chloride or sodium bromide or sodium iodide. But before to do the detection of this halogen detection, we have to do one reaction, that we have to treat this sodium extract with nitric acid. Why? Because if any extra sulfur or nitrogen present in that, they also can treat with in the further reaction. Here we will use the silver nitrate for the detection of these halides, but if any sulfur nitrogen present, that can interfere. So we cannot detect the presence of halogens properly. So to that, first we have to treat this sodium extract with nitric acid. Why? Because if any nitrogen present in that or sulfur present in that, there can be escape. When you treat with for example, if it has a nitrogen, then you treat with nitric acid, and nitric acid can be removed by hydrogen cyanide gas, and sulfur also similarly. This nitric acid can oxidizes that cyanide and sulfides to the gases. It can form sodium nitrate and removes the sulfur as hydrogen sulfide gas. So like this we can remove the presence of nitrogen and sulfur. Then you can go for the further detection of halides. So here for the detection of halides, that sodium extract we will treat with silver nitrate. Anyhow, this is a kind of ionic reaction. Sodium halides and silver nitrate can undergo immediate reaction. There is a formation of silver halide precipitate, and the formation of this precipitate indicates that we have the halogens in the sodium. The sodium extract contains the halogens. Then what type of halogen? It may be chlorine, bromine or iodine. So here, if it is a chlorine, you will get silver chloride. Generally silver chloride is a white precipitated compound. Means if you take NaCl here, we will get AgCl, that is a white precipitate. Formation of precipitate, white precipitate, indicates that chloride. Or else if it forms bromide, AgBr, this is a pale yellow color. This formation of pale yellow color precipitate indicates that the organic compound containing bromine halide. And next, if it forms silver iodide, this is a yellow color precipitate, a little dark yellow compared to the bromine, and this yellow color, pure yellow color, indicates that presence of iodine. And this further can be confirmed, the various halogens, chlorine, bromine, iodine. See here, bromine, iodine, anyhow we cannot separate, both are having yellow color, so further identification. And here silver chloride, and this can be further confirmed by treating with ammonia solution, or you treat with ammonium hydroxide. Ammonia solution nothing but ammonium hydroxide. So silver chloride is soluble in ammonium hydroxide or ammonia solution. It is soluble in nature. So if silver chloride is soluble, means we can say silver halide is soluble in ammonia solution, so it indicates that it is a halogen. And whereas silver bromide, if you treat with ammonia solution, you can see partial soluble. It will not soluble completely, partially soluble. And whereas silver iodide, if you treat with ammonia solution, no solubility, insoluble in nature. So now from this you can further clearly identify or clearly detect whether it is a bromine or iodine. If it is a bromine, partial soluble; if it is iodine, insoluble in nature. Even though both are having yellow color, you can further confirm the halogen. Or else we can do another test also here to further identify further confirm bromine and iodine, that is with the help of the chlorine, that is called organic layer test. Is the further confirmation of the bromide and iodide. So, in this organic layer test, we will take this AgBr or AgI, whatever it is, silver halide, either it may be bromine or iodine, and the silver halide will treat with chloroform or carbon tetrachloride, chloroform or carbon tetrachloride. The reaction can take place here, exchange of halogen, means this chlorine can exchange the bromine or iodine. For example, if it has the bromine, it can exchange, it can form AgCl and liberates the bromine. And when you dissolve this silver halide in carbon tetrachloride, if it is iodine, iodine can be liberated. So, this liberation of bromine, anyhow this organic layer test, it can form a brown color layer. When you take initially silver halide, initially to this will add the chloroform or carbon tetrachloride, then the bromine present, bromide ion present in the precipitate, that will come out, that can dissolve in the carbon tetrachloride solution. Then when the bromide comes out, it can form bromine, and bromine is the brown color liquid, the formation of brown color. It can form a kind of the layer over the organic solvent, can form one layer, and that layer brown color layer indicates the presence of bromine. Or else instead of brown color layer, if it forms a violet color layer, then we can say that that is the iodine. When you treat again the silver iodide, for example, if you add to that chloroform or carbon tetrachloride, and iodine can be liberates out. That liberated iodine can give the violet color. Like this also we can further confirm the presence of bromine and iodine by using this organic layer test. So, next, detection of phosphorus. So, here again if organic compound contains phosphorus, first that phosphorus compound will treat with sodium peroxide. When you treat with sodium peroxide, it can form sodium phosphate, and the sodium phosphate further will treat with nitric acid, and nitric acid convert the sodium phosphate into the phosphoric acid, and this phosphoric acid we can treat further with ammonium molybdate. This is a chemical formula for ammonium molybdate. Ammonium molybdate in presence of nitric acid. When you treat ammonium molybdate with the phosphoric acid, it can form one yellow color precipitate, that is ammonium phosphomolybdate. The formation of ammonium phosphomolybdate indicates the presence of phosphorus. This is a chemical formula. This is ammonium phosphomolybdate. Okay, na? So, this is a yellow color precipitate, or we can say canary yellow. Canary yellow formation confirms that the presence of phosphorus in a given organic compound. Now, we will see quantitative analysis of the elements which are present in organic compound. Second one, quantitative analysis. So here quantitative analysis first, estimation of carbon and hydrogen. How much amount of carbon, hydrogen is there, how much amount of nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, again halogens. First we will go with estimation of carbon and nitrogen. Sorry, carbon and hydrogen. This we can call Liebig's test sometime. Again same as usual, you can take organic compound, treat with cupric oxide, it can produce carbon dioxide if carbon is there, and water. Now we have to identify the amount of carbon and water. At least if you know the amount of carbon dioxide evolved in a particular reaction, then you can that we can convert into the weight of carbon present in organic compound, right. Then for that, first we have to identify amount of carbon dioxide evolved and amount of water evolved here. So for this carbon dioxide we will pass to the known weight of potassium hydroxide solution. If you pass to the potassium hydroxide solution, known weight, and carbon dioxide can be absorbed by the potassium hydroxide, it can form potassium carbonate. So initially we have to identify what is the weight of potassium hydroxide. Then after absorption of this carbon dioxide, and the weight of potassium carbonate will increase, then we can take that is a W2 grams. So from this weight change, you can calculate how much amount of carbon dioxide evolved, whatever is absorbed by that potassium hydroxide. So we can see weight of carbon dioxide from here. That will be W2 minus W1, we can identify. Similarly water, and this if you pass to the known weight of anhydrous calcium chloride, we can wait initially, and to that if you pass the water, calcium chloride can absorb, again the weight gains, calcium chloride can gains the weight. Let us assume again initial weight here W1. After absorption, it can form anhydrous hydrated calcium chloride, and whose weight let us assume W2. From this you can identify the weight of water, that is equals to W2 minus W1. Again weight of water you can identify from here, and weight of carbon dioxide we can identify from here. Once if you know the weight of carbon dioxide, then you can identify what is the weight of the carbon, and once if you know the weight of the carbon, that you can identify what is the weight of carbon present in the organic compound. So here we can use this formula. Simply how we can identify weight of carbon? Weight of carbon here, that is a weight of carbon dioxide by molecular weight of carbon dioxide, that is 44. Then to that if you multiply with the molecular weight of, so you multiply with the molecular weight of carbon, so atomic weight of carbon, not molecular weight here. Something went wrong, struck out not. So now weight of carbon, so atomic weight of carbon. So this, so from this weight of carbon dioxide can give the number of moles of carbon dioxide. Once if you know the number of moles of carbon dioxide, that is equal to the number of moles of carbon. If you know the number of moles of carbon, you multiply with the 12, you will get weight of carbon. Now weight of carbon came in the carbon dioxide. Now weight of carbon in organic compound or percentage of carbon in organic compound. So what is the actual weight of carbon? This is the weight of carbon, and you want to calculate the percentage of carbon in organic compound. So weight of carbon by total weight of organic compound into 100, that can give the percentage of carbon in organic compound. Just the weight of carbon dioxide means 12 by 44 into weight of carbon dioxide produced by a weight of organic compound initially taken. weight of organic compound into 100, and this formula can give the percentage of carbon present in an organic compound. We can estimate like this, estimation of carbon. The same way, estimation of hydrogen. Again, anyhow, you can identify what is the weight of water produced. Once if you know the weight of water produced, from this you can identify the number of moles. Here, weight of hydrogen in water. How much amount of hydrogen may be present if you take 1 mole? 2 grams. So, first we have to convert the water into number of moles. So, that you can do by dividing with molar mass. So, this many moles of water produced. So, that many moles of water contains twice amount of the hydrogen. Then this many moles of hydrogen means just multiply with 2. Why? Because H2, weight of hydrogen, I am taking here only H2, 2 hydrogens are there. So, weight of hydrogen by 18 into 2 can give weight of this one, weight of water by 18, sorry. And this hydrogen coming from where? It is coming from organic compound only. So, the same organic compound containing this much hydrogen. Now, percentage of hydrogen in an organic compound, that again weight of hydrogen by weight of organic compound into 100. So, 2 by 18 into weight of water produced in that chemical reaction by weight of organic compound into 100. This can give the percentage of hydrogen present in an organic compound. These two. You can use these formulas directly, or else you can go with stoichiometric calculations, simple stoichiometric calculations. So, here we have two formulas, percentage of carbon and percentage of hydrogen. So, from these formulas we can estimate how much of carbon is there and how much of hydrogen is there. See, one question related to the detection of carbon and hydrogen. On complete combustion, (0.246 grams of an organic compound gave 0.198 grams of carbon dioxide and 0.1014 grams of water. Then calculate percentage of carbon and hydrogen in the given compound. So, this is the question. What it is? Organic compound is undergoing combustion, that it is producing carbon dioxide and water. The weight of carbon dioxide is given 0.198 grams and the weight of water produced is given 0.1014 grams. When you take, initially the organic compound is 246 grams. Now, we have the weights of carbon dioxide, water and organic compound. Just you substitute in the given formulas, you will get it. Now, percentage of carbon, simply weight of carbon dioxide, or first of all 12 by 44 into weight of carbon dioxide 0.198 by weight of organic compound 0.246 into 100. Just on simplification you can get this one 21.95 percentage. Similarly, percentage of hydrogen 2 by 18, weight of water 0.1014, weight of organic compound 0.246 grams, again into 100, and this can give approximately 4.58 percentage. Like this we can calculate the percentage of carbon and hydrogen.